the factorial cryptarhythm. This is found in a Codebusters Division B test. So first over here, you should know that you have to learn normal cryptarhythms in order to solve this, because this is a bonus question, so it is a bit harder. But to make it easier, let's go ahead and write this in vertically, so it's a lot easier to visualize. Okay, so this is how it looks vertically. First, you should know what a factorial is. So factorial just means that you multiply all whole numbers down to 1. So if you had 3 as a factorial, that means 3 times 2 times 1 equals 6. And if you have 4, that means 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 is 24, and so on with 5, which means 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 equals 120. So it's basically just taking the starting number and then multiplying it all down to the whole number to 1, right? Okay, so you can see that factorials make a big difference because it grows really quickly, and so that's why it's really important to notice when they do it. And a factorial symbol should usually be an exclamation mark. And then so over here we know that geese is a 5-digit number, right? So that means the 5-digit number should be between 10,000 and 99,999. That means 1 factorial must be at least greater than or equal to 7. So that means we have 2 factorials over here, right? So both 7 and r must be greater than or equal to 7. And now we can look at the geese pattern, right? So we know that E appears 3 times, meaning that is very restrictive, which usually means that E is small, so often 0 or 1, because large digits repeated 3 times almost always break the arithmetic. So I think usually in factorial cryptarhythms, if you have an addition or subtraction and with just 1 variable or 1 digit at the very end, it's usually 0. So right now we can put E as 0, but that could change as we go further on. So that means since we found 0, that means this would be E over here. And because I just took this from the answer that it says 2 words. Okay, so if r is greater than s, then a multiplied by r might be too large and make the result negative, so it's much more reasonable that s is greater than r. And the reason that we're doing this is, first, when you see factorial cryptarhythm, you have to find what is the most dominant factorial in the entire problem, and in this case that means it would be s, because s is making the most change or impact on this cryptarhythm. Okay, so since we know that both r and s must be greater than or equal to 7, how about, since we know that also s must be greater than r, we know that r has to be 7, or it could be like r be 8 and s be 9. But if you do realize 9 goes over the limit for geese, because geese is a 5-digit number, and 9 is, even though you could subtract, I feel like it would still be too big. There definitely is a possibility, but it would be too big. And then we know s is greater than r, so then s would most likely be 8. Again, it could be 9, so that means we get 5,040 and 40,320. Okay, so moving on, something that we need to note, since we found s and r, we need to see that we can factor out something. So if you notice, we have 5,040 multiple times that you could factor out. So that means that when we have 8 times g, then 8 times 5,040 is 40,320. So, okay. So now that we factored 5,040 out, we can see that it's 5,040 multiplied by 8g minus a plus e. So what we would take out right now is the 8g minus a part. And basically all you have to realize is this can be viewed as one entire variable. So this, you could say, is, for example, z, and that's just, for now, view this as one entire thing, and whatever it equals is just like one entire variable. So that's easier to visualize. And now we are saying 5040 multiplied by blank, and that blank is what AG minus A equals to. So we should go with lower values first, so numbers 1, 2, and 3, for example. It could also be 0, but we also did 0 for E. So, and where the 1, 2, 3 parts come in, we're just sizing. So it's just saying of 8G minus A as how many chunks of 5040 fit into the final answer of geese, right? Because it's a 5-digit number. So if we try 5040 multiplied by 1, that also equals 5040, which is too small. And then if we try 5040 times 2, that's 10,080, which is good. And then if we go on to 5040 multiplied by 3, that's 15,120. And then 5040 times 4, which is 20,160, which is all right since it still is in the 5-digit range, but it is still too big, assuming that we have we're also adding 0, which would not make a difference, but it still is just too big. If it does make sense, I mean, it could be 4, there is a possibility, but our best guess is that 8G minus A either equals 2 or 3 for now. So that's something to keep in mind. And also, if you had another question, 5 could work as well, but it is mathematically, they're possible sizes, but it just doesn't make sense because in 4, that's 20,160, so it's 5 digits borderline, while 2 and 3 are 5 digits exactly, so it makes a lot more sense. And over here, if we try 8G minus A, we can try 3. So 8G minus A equals 3, and 5040 times 3, which equals 15,120, but we know that E repeats 3 times here, which is impossible. So let's go ahead and try 2 now. And 2 seems perfect because we have basically another thing to note is if you didn't understand at this point, whatever 8G minus A equals and that times 5040 is the final answer because we're assuming E is 0, right? Or else E would make a difference. So this is supposed to be the value of geese. So the 2 works perfectly. And now it looks like this. So now we can try using this equation that we created over here. So 8G minus A equals 2, right? So we would basically just use this equation to find A. And we know that G is 1, so that means 8 times 1 minus A equals 2, meaning that A would be 6. And that also makes perfect sense because we are missing one letter over here. So the answer would be rage gas. And then over here it also says that there's 2 extra spaces, but it does say to ignore those last two spaces. So in Codebusters you would basically just say rage gas. Thank you so much for watching this video.